Do you truly understand what the fundamental key to achieving significant success is for absolutely anyone who thoughtfully invests their valuable resources in real estate, even including those individuals who are simply purchasing their very own personal home? Success is always tied to knowing your purpose. Why are you buying the house? What motivates you to buy the house? You always have to ask yourself at least 5 whys about why you're buying a house. Even the why behind the why, to discover the internal drive, that inner desire that's pushing you to make the investment or buy a home. That's the key to success for most real estate investors. It's not just about looking at the numbers. It's not just about having a good location. It's not about predicting the future. If you are very clear about why you want that property, what you want to get out of it, what need the property is going to fulfill for you, the chances that you'll buy successfully and sell successfully increase. And in that process, enjoying the property, between buying and selling it, whether it's your main home or an investment property, you'll have the peace of mind of generating income. We've seen how many people lose money over stupid reasons. What was your reason for buying? Everyone was buying. In 2022, we saw the biggest stupidity in real estate. Most people were buying because they didn't want to miss out on something. It's that everyone is buying, so you have to buy. And those collective panics, whether in the stock market, cryptocurrency, or real estate, will always leave you to lose. Because if you don't know your reason why, you'll fall for trends, you'll give in to temptation, or you'll end up in the hands of an aggressive salesperson who will paint you a picture-perfect world and get you into a bad investment. If you have that core reason clear, we assure you that you'll be able to come out on top with your main property purchase or your investment. That's what we're going to analyze today. What is the way to reach that purpose? And what are the different purposes that might motivate you to make such an important investment? As always, it's me, Gabriel Perozzo, and I'm joined, as usual, to discuss this opportunity on the podcast Where to Live in Miami with my friend and business partner, YENITZE Molina. Jenny, are you ready to go over the purposes?
Well, yes, because honestly, there are endless reasons. So it's MMM. We could talk about this for hours because, first of all, each of us as individuals has a different goal. Gabriel's goal is different from mine. And the same goes for every client who is part of our circle. And always, I don't know, Gabriel, if this happens to you too, in the first conversation we have with them, it's, what are you looking for? Which is a way of asking, what's your purpose? What are you looking for? Do you want cash flow? Do you want appreciation? And why do you want it? Family reasons. And when you dig into that, that's when you can really offer them a product that aligns with what they're looking for. We've come across a lot of different answers from sellers. You know, sellers also have their own purposes, and so do buyers. And our job, in a way, is to help clarify this so we can guide them properly. So, for example, Gabriel, let me ask you, when buying, what's your purpose?
Look, the easiest way to get to any investor's purpose is the same way sellers use to figure out how to sell. One of the standard rules in sales is the rule of 3 or 5 whys, which you can keep asking yourself to get to the root of a case. It's, I want to move. Why do you want to move? Because I'm too far from work. Why are you too far from work? Because I live 10 miles away. And why is 10 miles considered far? Because 5 miles is close. Why is 5 miles considered close? Because I can take public transportation. Why can you take public transportation? Because public transportation becomes affordable at 5 miles. So, by asking yourself why after why after why, you end up realizing that you might reach the point of saying, what I really need is to be close to the subway or close to public transportation, or maybe what I need is to change jobs. Why don't I ask the question in reverse? And say, then, why is my job far away and not close by? Let me see what I can find nearby. You should always ask yourself a lot of whys, because housing decisions, generally, when you're buying, are irreversible for a while. I can't just say, I'm going to buy a house in Brick Hill, and 3 months later say, no, I really made a mistake. Let me go buy one in Aventura instead. No, really, you can't. Maybe you can do that with food, like you say, I'm going to have a burger. It doesn't sit well at night. And you say, no, tomorrow, salad. And you say, well, that's it. You change your mind, and there's no problem when it comes to food, right? But with housing, there are a lot of procedures, a lot of expenses, a lot of money involved, and you can't just change it. So why do people buy? For me, the main reason to buy is to ask yourself all the necessary whys. And as agents, we have to ask you those questions. A lot of people might think, wow, what a pain this agent is. All they do is ask me question after question, asking me why after why after why. Because you're very likely to make a mistake if they don't ask you. What do you think is the reason people buy in Brick Hill? For example,
Well, there are a lot of reasons, starting with being close. Number one, close to what? Because of a lifestyle, close to work. A lot of people who buy in Brick Hill work in Brick Hill. And the lifestyle. The lifestyle in Brick Hill is totally different from the lifestyle you might find in Kendall, in Doral, in Southwater. The lifestyle is much more for young people. But in addition to that, which is like, it's pretty simple, okay, I want to be close to my job. I want to be close to the school. I want to be close to the highway. That's easy to figure out. But really, there's a reason that's a bit harder to define, which is, okay, I'm 70 years old and I want to invest the money I have, maybe in my retirement account, in real estate, and I don't care about appreciation. I don't care about appreciation. I just want cash flow. That's what I want. So this is another reason why you might say, okay, it also really depends on the stage of life I'm in and how I want to live it, because someone else might say, I'm 70 years old and I want to leave a legacy for my children or for my grandchildren. I want to buy a certain number of properties with my retirement and have them placed in a trust, so everything is organized, and when I die, they go to them. But I want them to appreciate in value because they're for my grandchildren, so appreciation is the most important thing. That reason is just as important as the other one. So when it comes time for us, Gabriel, for us to talk with people, I say, okay, I really empathize with each person's reasons so I can define and find the product that truly meets those reasons. Sometimes it's complicated in markets that are so diverse. But in the end, you find it and you can tell the client, look, this meets what you're looking for in your life, or this is the right time to sell.
but but I don't 100% agree, Jenny, because you can't just look at a reason today. You have to look at a reason today. I was talking about a reason for a primary residence because I have to live close or far from work. But when you talk about investment, it's impossible to predict the future. Impossible. There's no way. But people only focus on today's reason. You have to try to see the reason for today because I say, I'm 70 years old. I want cash flow. I don't want appreciation. I'm going to get closer to the microphone. Damn it. Hell. 70 years old. You're a kid. You could live to 95. You could live to 95 years old and you're thinking that just because you're 70, you're going to die. You got 25 years of life left. Damn it. That's a whole mortgage term. So, that's not really a vision of saying, I just want to enjoy the money I have left. And the life you have left, it's not like you only have 25 years left, because no one's going to kill you at 74.
But in the end, everyone has the right to live their life however they see fit.
Yes, Jenny, but you can't just look at the reason for right now, because the person who bought in 2022 sees the reason why everyone is buying. Interest rates were at 2%, and they paid an overprice just to have rates at 2%. And now they say, fuck, I overpaid. And now prices are dropping. And on top of that, I got into a property I didn't even like, but it was the only one where my offer was accepted. Now, what do? Gabriel, Jenny, please. Where am I going to live in Miami? I invest in Miami, solve my problem. It ends up being about not seeing the future. That's why I always want people to see the reason for today, but also to project as much as they can, because there are people who come to me and say, I want to buy in Wichita. Do you even know Wichita? No, but my cousin bought there. And what is it about Wichita that would make you think it's better than Miami, for example? No, it's just that Miami is unlivable, but you're buying for investment. You're not buying to live there. But imagine, in Wichita, a house costs 100,000. Over there, I could buy 3. And who's going to rent them from you? Do you have tenants? Yes, of course. There are lots of tenants, and they'll always be there. I assure you that in Miami, there will be tenants for at least the next 50 years. I swear to you, just like in New York.
Of course, it's totally and absolutely. What you're saying is totally and absolutely true. In the end, we've seen it with every person who's called us, who bought 3 or 4 years ago. People make their decisions based on information, what they see, their emotions, and their life plans. That's why we always emphasize to people, you have to get informed, and you don't just have to get informed, obviously. Like today, we go on any social network and see people saying the market is crashing, it's falling apart, it's dead, which isn't true. The same thing happened in 2020, 2021, 2022, when they said it was the best business in the world. Probably yes, but in trying to take advantage of what you mentioned, Gabby, trying to seize an opportunity, they didn't measure things properly, and maybe, well, they didn't make the best deal.
They gave away all the added value of their homes by buying at inflated prices, paying above the list prices, and now they're stuck with at least 10 years of bad luck. Everyone whose prices will very likely struggle to gain any significant appreciation, because when you add up everything they had to do to buy. Tell me about those who didn't do inspections on their homes. No, let's just skip the inspection. And then they'd end up with termites, plumbing problems, electrical issues. Why on earth would you do that? Oh, it's because the interest rate is at 2.5. They're offering it to me at 2.5. Sir, the interest rate is at 2.5. Great, buy it at 3.5, but do the inspection. You're getting yourself into a problem that could cost you $50,000 more if the electrical system doesn't work and if the plumbing doesn't work. Jenny, the reason can't just be by itself. Appreciation, cash flow. Is it the corner or is it the center? No. You need to have a lot more information, but you have to be able to say, I'm happy. That's like someone marrying a woman just because she's pretty. Sir, she's not always going to be pretty. She's not always going to be. If you marry her just because she's pretty, look at the kind of luck you need for her to be pretty, smart, loving, a little crazy, tough for as long as you need, there for you in bad times and good times. That's a lot to ask. No, I get married because she has a bunch of qualities and, on top of that, I like her, because that's another thing. It's not about her being pretty. It's about you liking her, because the one I like might not be the one you like. Maybe you like shorter girls. I like taller ones. And then you say, why did he marry that short girl? Look, he married someone taller than him. But in the end, it's about much more than just one thing. That's why all the whys. Asking yourself 1,000 questions and answering them, because if not, just don't buy. Put your money in the New York Stock Exchange and you'll get a decent return, but you won't have to ask yourself why.
Yeah, totally, totally. Really, this podcast is above all an analysis of, first of all, purpose. I really do feel that
I'm going to move the microphone.
that a person who wants to buy should really define their purpose clearly. You know, and understand why people ask so many questions when you do it. I mean, what is your purpose? And is it really important? Is it relevant? And is it the number one reason? But this purpose can't be full of trends, sensationalism, and what social media says. It's like you shut yourself off and say, this is what I want. Now I'm going to look for the information. Because, folks, the biggest problem we have today is information overload. It keeps you from being able to find what's right for you. So close off and look for the one you feel. Okay, yes, here, these people, or here on this page, or here I find the information that nourishes me so I can make the right decision based on my purpose.
What do you recommend to people as we wrap up the podcast so they can achieve their purpose?
Contact us. Really, Kanda, no, I mean, what I recommend is Information, information. Not too much, not overthinking. The real estate market is also a market of action. It's about conscious action based on what you want to do when buying or selling a property, based on information. So that's my advice. Get informed and take action with someone who gives you confidence and who you see has everything you need, who keeps you informed.
That's 100% true. Most likely, you won't realize how to reach your goal if someone doesn't help you find it. Because if your goal is, it's simple, like Jenny says, there's information online. My goal is to make more money, and you buy a house in Wichita. But you're not working with a specialist from here or from Wichita. Chances are you won't make money either here or there. We already have experience with several cases, at least in Cape Coral, where we're struggling to help clients get out of problems they got into by buying houses in 2022. They're selling at a loss. They're having a hard time because it's a burden. It turns out you buy at that point, overpaying in an area that ended up dropping much more than the national average, and it gets tough. We don't want to repeat those stories with you, where we have to solve the problems. What we want is to avoid problems and buy with as much calm and financial, economic intelligence as possible within the transaction, so we don't have to be fixing issues down the road. So please seek specialized help. We're always here at your service. We've always wanted to make this podcast conversational, to share our analyses and our daily meetings, because we really fight for our clients like this behind the scenes, trying to make sure they make the best deals and that everything works out as well as possible. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, which tells the platform it's quality content. Share it, and of course, subscribe to our channel. We have 4 podcasts a week. As always, it's a great pleasure. Thank you so much to everyone who listens to us. We're Living in Miami podcast, a creation of Invest in Miami Real Estate.